This caught my attention today on the tweet machine. Hamilton Tiger Cats offensive lineman Peter Dyakowski says he had a good friend run some numbers, did a study to say Tiger Cat fans are the number one fan in the Canadian Football League. Now guess what? That didn't sit well with you, Rider Nation. So I've reached out to Peter Dyakowski today asking, okay, who do you know ran the study, and would he come on the show and talk about the math and what he did? And he said it's Professor John Miller from McMaster University, and he joins us now here on the Green Zone. John, thanks for your time.
Hi, thank you much for having me on, Mr. Nye. And let me start with an apology. I understand Peter went running with something from our study, put it on his Facebook or whatever. It was a little preliminary, and, in this day and age, you kind of lose the nuance when you have these things going around online. So he said he'd caused a bit of a fuss, and that I ought to phone in maybe with a more thorough explanation of what exactly we did with our study and how we arrived with the results that we did. It was a bit of a fun exercise for us.
Well, please do, because Rider fans would love to hear how Cat fans would be number one on a study of best fans in the CFL.
Well, for starters, the study wasn't done, just to get those simple results. It was more of an exercise that we did. I also am a co-chair over at the Perimeter Institute's Center for Statistical Analysis, and it was kind of an exercise in seeing how we could cope with something as subjective as evaluating football fandom, how we could use data analysis to give us something meaningful, and potentially be able to take those results and use them in what you might call the real world. So we decided to have a look, and when you look at the numbers first off, you see Saskatchewan has these terrific figures. You look at attendance numbers, for example, merchandise sales. Your group, your fans, top the charts. But we wanted to look a little bit deeper. We wanted to have some fun with them, trying to come up with a meaningful number. One of the comments that could be made about Saskatchewan is that it's an isolated environment. There's a monopoly on professional sports, more or less, in Saskatchewan. You have the Riders and nobody else. So when we looked at your numbers, we didn't just look at the Riders' numbers. We looked at professional sports numbers through every market. We looked at revenue figures for all pro sports teams in a given market area, and then we looked at the CFL team's relative share of those. We looked at attendance figures as a percentage of total professional sports attendance in an area, and what we found looking at it is that Saskatchewan's got great numbers directly compared with other CFL clubs. However, because you don't have any competing professional teams in your market, you have a scenario where you're actually not really outside of the average band of professional sports expenditures or fandom across Canada. So when we looked at other markets, and this, specifically Hamilton is where we were.
Yeah, really. So what number?
I'm rambling here.
What numbers did Tiger Cat score higher that gives them number one over Saskatchewan? Now I'm curious on which numbers they would have scored higher on than Saskatchewan.
So where Hamilton performed better was when you looked at expenditures, regional expenditures in professional sports, ticket sales, attendance, and merchandise, and the share that Hamilton occupied in a crowded space. So we looked at the Hamilton market, and for the purposes of our study, we included it in the Toronto market area, and we found that the expenditure on professional sports was much higher than we'd expected overall, and we looked at the percentage of that was occupied by the Hamilton Tiger Cats and found it to be relatively outsized compared to what we initially expected. That was kind of the leveler that we tried to apply a tool to let us compare apples to apples. And it's tough because, you look at Saskatchewan, and obviously you guys have great numbers. I don't want to take anything away from, I know the emotions run very high in this, but this is a way of trying to take science and math and apply it to this very interesting scenario. And we found that Hamilton performed much more strongly than any other market. So that's one example. Another example, we actually took average noise levels from stadiums throughout the league, and that was
Saskatchewan has the loudest stadium in the league. We all know this.
Well, we only analyzed the 2015 season, and
they sucked in 2015. John, give us a break. We were a little disengaged after an 0-9 start.
Well, and possibly that's a criticism, and maybe we will have to. We didn't have any data from previous seasons. We had to collect this data on our own in cooperation with the league. So we may have to, take that portion of our study and run it for a few more years to, maybe get a fair number. Because we actually talked about that, and we actually underweighted noise in our final analysis, just to try to be fair with that. But it's not about being fair, of course. It's about being accurate and trying to find a scientific way to quantify fandom. And noise it has to be a part of it. I don't think you can argue that it cannot be.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Hamilton scored highest in the new Tim Hortons Field. Beautiful facility, by the way.
So finally, John, just run after you ran down the numbers. Who are the top three when it comes to fans in the CFL?
Well, the number one was Hamilton, and now we're not releasing this study until it's going to coincide with the start of the season. So I'm a little upset that Peter jumped the gun with his Facebook posting. We actually came up with Winnipeg as number 2, and then Saskatchewan as number 3.
Well, John, thank you for your time. We look forward to the full study and read a lot more on it. And once we do that, love to have you back on the show again. Thanks for taking the time and calling in.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matt. I appreciate it. You have a good evening.
There's John Miller from McMaster University, who says, okay, the Hamilton fans have to fight harder and be more engaged with a lot more going on in the Toronto and the GTA than Saskatchewan fans do here.